Hey guys, I just really like to say thanks from the bottom of my heart for all the well wishes and messages that people have sent me over the last month or so. It really does mean a lot, and I do mean a lot. So thank you very much. I feel much better now. Things should be going back to normal. I plan on playing poker tomorrow and producing more vlogs and hopefully make up for the time that I missed so far this year. This session is from the end of 2021. I wasn't really planning on making a vlog about it, but there were some very interesting spots and I thought that you guys would be interested in seeing it. So here we go. Sit back, relax, enjoy. Here it comes. We are playing in the 1-3 game at Capital Casino. It's a $500 match to stack. We buy in for $500, and it is a pretty good action game. So the first hand we get involved with, there is a open for $18 from under the gun. +1 puts in the call for the 18. And here I look down at King Queen suited. I kind of like putting in a 3-bet in this position, but the game just started and we have a pretty decent size open from under the gun and a call. So I decided just to put in the call and try to see a flop. It's folded back around to the big blind, who has no intentions of letting anyone see the flop unless they're willing to put in another $129. And here lies one of the biggest problems with just flatting with a hand like King Queen. I might as well just put a big sign around my neck saying, squeeze us, because that's what's going to happen. If any player has a decent hand and wants to put us in a tough spot, they're going to put in a big squeeze raise. And the player in the big blind did that. The other player who opened thought for a long time before he put in the call. And once he does, I really don't have much to do here. I'm going to have to give up my King Queen suited. I'm probably beat. Someone might have Ace King or Ace Queen, and I could be way behind. But if I did put in that 3-bet, I think I would be getting very good odds to continue. More than likely, I'll be behind the players that are involved in the hand, but you never know. Maybe my aggression would force them to fold a hand as weak as Ace Jack, Ace 10, maybe even some sort of middling pair. It could work. Aggression does pay off. But here, once I decided to flat, I gave away all my chance of playing this hand aggressively, so I have to let it go. As the run out comes out, I would have made a pair of kings and took down this pot against Ace Queen and Ace Jack. But, I was behind when I folded, but I think aggression would have been the better play. The following round was like an instant replayer. Same player opens for 21, same player calls the 21, and this time I looked down at 9-8 suited. Knowing that I made the mistake last time of not 3-betting with King Queen suited, I decided to do it with 9-8. So I raised to 85. Now, granted, this is a very aggressive move, but if this player was willing to open with Ace Jack offsuit last time from under the gun, he's more than likely ready to open with other weak hands. So taking an aggressive lead, I decided 9-8 suited was a good hand to 3-bet. He goes into the tank and ends up deciding on a fold. The other player says, oh, if he doesn't call, I can't call, and he ends up folding also. So just a little bit of aggression in the right time took down this pot, and occasionally raising with hands like suited connectors also protects your raising range when you do have a big hand. I look down at 2 kings after one player limps in, and I put in a raise to 20. We get a call from the player on the button and from the original limper. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop with $64 in the pot. Looking for a favorable flop, and it's not that bad. It comes Queen, 10, Queen with 2 hearts. So if no one has a queen, I'm in pretty good shape. I decided to check it because I saw the player behind me look like he was interested in it. So I check it. He bets 30. And when he bets 30, I think it's a pretty weak lead, maybe something like a straight or a flush draw. The other player puts in the call, and here I was debating about putting in a big raise, but I decided just to call and see the worst card in the deck. Well, second worst card. The Ace of Hearts would have been the worst card. Peel off of a Jack of Hearts. So the first player checks, I check, and it gets checked around, and I go, oh, I'm really good here, until I saw the Ace of Hearts on the river. You notice the player on the button checked his cards, took a little peek at them, and the other player leads out for $60. So I'm contemplating making some sort of hero call with a straight with a 4 flush on board, but I'm worried about the other player behind me. And then when he peeks back again at his cards, it's like saying, oh, I'm not sure I have anything, let me look again. So instantly I know that he has a big hand. I'm thinking that he either has a full house or a straight flush, or royal flush. So I snap folded as soon as I saw him take the second peek, and he snaps all in. And now it's on the other player, who goes into the tank for a while before saying that he's making a crying call with a 9 of hearts. And the other player turns over, you guessed it, the king of hearts. So my passive play kind of got me in a little bit of a pickle, but I think either way I'm going to end up losing this hand. I think I lost the minimum, but that read definitely made the fold a lot easier. Here I'm in middle position. I look down at ace king offsuit. There is a limp from under the gun from a player who's actually a very good player and I respect a lot, and I was surprised to see him limp from under the gun. So I decided to put in a pretty good size raise to 25, and he puts in the quick call, and we're going heads up to a flop of ace 8-4 with 2 clubs. He checks it over to me. I go ahead and c-bet for 20, and he puts in a very quick call. So I'm pretty sure he has something, and when the jack of hearts peels off, I'm thinking that could definitely be in his limping range, and he decides to check it over to me. So I decided I was going to check this one back and see the size of bet he put out on the river. And the river card comes as a 3 of spades, which is a complete blank, and now he bets out for $25. Now, this small bet makes me think that he has a weak ace and nothing more than that, and he's trying to get value out of, let's say, a pocket pair somewhere like tens or queens. So I decided to go for some value, which is kind of odd for taking this line, but I'm pretty sure I'm good at this point. So I put in a little raise to $85, hoping that he would go ahead and call. He starts talking about how I'm slow playing a big hand that I flopped, either that or I got lucky on the turn. So instantly I'm putting him on a hand of ace queen. He does eventually make the call. I show him my ace king, and he flashes that he had the ace queen of spades. I look down at queen 10 suited from under the gun +1, decide to open for a raise to 15. It's a little bit on the loose side, but it's not that bad. We end up getting 3 callers, so we're end up going 4 ways to a flop with 61 in the pot, and we flop a good one. It comes 10-10 deuce with 2 clubs. It ends up getting checked over to me. I'm definitely going to continue. I put out my standard bet of $20, which is what I probably do with most of my hands like ace king, ace queen. I end up getting 1 caller. The turn card comes as a beautiful queen of spades. So now he's drawing for a flush. I'm really hoping that he gets there. It's time for me to put some more chips in there. I make it 40. And he thinks for a little bit before putting in a call. Now, sometimes I think I could have gone bigger, but knowing that he was drawing dead, I really wanted to make his hand so I can get more on the end. The river card comes as a 9 of hearts, so the clubs brick out. And I don't think he's going to put in a call with anything unless he has backdoor some sort of straight or maybe made a pair of queens with a flush draw. So I decided to go for 2/3 pot bet. As soon as I start pushing out the chips, you can see that he was disinterested and he let his hand go. I look down at ace queen offsuit from under the gun, open for a raise to 15. The player on my left puts in the call rather quickly and is folded to the player on the button, who thinks for a little bit before also putting in the call. The other 2 players in the blinds end up folding, so we're going to go 3 ways to a flop with 49 in, and the flop comes 8-deuce-6 with 2 clubs. I do have the ace of clubs, and I thought about leading at this, but this really doesn't hit my range too hard, and I would probably check this even if I had an overpair at this point. The player on my left decides to put in a bet for $20. I'm thinking that they possibly have a hand like a pocket pair. The other player puts in the call, I put in the call with my backdoor flush draw, and the turn is a 9 of clubs. I check it over to the player, and they put out a smallish bet for $30. And they look back at their cards right before they did it, so they're doing some sort of club check. So now I'm thinking they have a overpair with a club in it, or checking to see if they had a club in it. So since they didn't re-raise me pre-flop, I'm thinking pocket tens perhaps. So I think my ace or queen would be good here. And if a king or a jack comes, I might be able to get away with a scare card. Anyway, the river card comes as a jack of diamonds, so we brick out on our club draw, and I check it just to see what they were going to do. They have a very large stack, and I thought about maybe just turning my hand into a bluff at this point. I do have the club blocker, and they end up betting $60. So here I'm not quite ready to give up on it, and I decided to go for it and put in a raise. And When I did so, I think I miscalculated about the sizing of my raise, and I made it $240, which isn't quite enough. And the player snap calls me with pocket aces, so I couldn't get them to fold a overpair. But the way I should have played this was quite different.
Yeah, I really like the idea of turning your hand into the bluff, but I think the best way to do it is to check raise on the turn when the three to the flush hits, and you can see that they're nervous about their bet sizing and checking to see if they have a club, and then bombing the river. That looks a lot stronger than taking the line that you did, because now your check raise on the end looks really, really fishy. I mean, it looks like an act of desperation instead of an act of poker. So if you're going to do make that play with the blocker, check raise the turn and then fire big on the river.
But the way I played it, it was just like punting $220, all for naught. Anyway, licked my wounds and I got back right in there for the next hand. I'm in the small blind with ace queen offsuit. There is an aggressive player who opened for a raise to 15. I put in the call and we go heads up to a flop of ace 8-4, which is a very good flop for ace queen. And since he's an aggressive player, I know he's going to probably c-bet. So I check it over to him, let him bet, and of course I just put in the smooth call. Turn card comes as relative blank of a 3 of spades. I decide to check it over to him again. If he has an ace, I know he's going to definitely bet it. And if he has something that he missed with, say maybe a flush draw or just big cards, maybe even a pocket pair above the eights, he's going to probably bet also. So I'm going to give him enough rope to hang himself. He ends up betting $40, which is a very fair price for me to continue. I did think about check raising, but I want to keep all his bluffs in, and so I was going to raise on the river. River card comes out as a 4 of spades, which is probably one of the best cards in the deck. Now some crazy hands like ace 3 are counterfeited. If he has an ace, the only thing I'm really losing to is ace 8, ace king, maybe pocket eights, or some sort of crazy flush draw with a 4 diamonds in it. I decided to check it over to him, and depending on his sizing, I was thinking about check raising. He bets $60, which I thought was a decent size, and I almost checked raise here. I probably should have. I mean, it looks a little fishy for me to check raise, which is exactly why I probably should have done it. Anyway, I end up just putting in the call and saying that if you have me out kicked, you have me out kicked. And he says, no, I got a 9 kicker. And so I rolled over my ace queen and we took this one down. But I lost value on the end. I was thinking to myself, I haven't flopped a set all day long. And then I looked down at 2 nines, open for a raise to 15. And I end up getting a call from a player on my direct left and 3 other players. So we're going to go 5 ways to this flop with $76 in the pot. As I said, I haven't flopped a set all day long. This might be my shining moment. We'll soon find out. Flop comes out King Jack 9 with 2 diamonds. So we got bottom set on a pretty wet board. So when check 2, I decided to bet $30. This is too small of a bet. I should really be pricing this up a little bit more, closer to $50 or $60, because the board is so dang wet. And give a player to my left a good price to call for his draw if that's what he has, and so does the button. Everyone else folds out. So we're going to go 3 ways to a turn card, looking for a blank, and instead we get the 10 of hearts. One of the worst cards in the deck. I decided to bet small here. I figured if my player to my left had a straight at this point, they probably would want the overcall, and I would get to name my own price for the draw. He puts in the call, the other player folds out, and we get a ace of diamonds on the river. So it completes the flush draw. There's a straight on board, and I think my opponent might have already been there. And he puts in a quick bet for $200. Granted, he could be bluffing at this point, and I just don't think he is. So I think I just have to let this one go. I can only beat a bluff. There's a 4 to a straight out there, 3 to a flush. He could be making some crazy move on me, but I think he has it. So I ended up letting this go. So even when you flop a set, it doesn't automatically mean you're going to get a big pot. I kind of butchered this, but I think I made a good lay down on the end. There were 2 early limpers. A player raised to 15 right to my direct right. I decided to put in the call here. I'm thinking that a 3 bet would have been kind of good idea to do, but at the time my image was kind of bad because I've been playing aggressively and haven't been able to show down too many winning hands. So I decided just to flat here, and it invited a bunch of players. So we had 6 of us seeing the flop with 91 in, and the flop comes 10-7-6 rainbow. So a good flop for our particular hand. We have top pair and a gut shot draw, and it gets checked around to me. And I really want to be charging people. So I decided to bet $45. As I said, I can probably go larger. My bet sizing is constantly too small. It's something I need to work on for 2022. The player to my direct left puts in the call, and so does one other player. So we're going to end up going 3 ways to the turn card with $226 in the pot. Turn card looks awful at first look because it's a jack of spades, it's an overcard, but in actuality, you shouldn't really hit my opponent unless they have a hand like jack 9 or jack 8, which I'm not sure they would have in this spot. So when check two, I decided I'm just going to really put a lot of pressure on their drawing type of hands. Maybe they have something like a 4-5 or 7-8, 7-9. And I put out a chunky bet for 135, and they both quickly fold. This is definitely the most interesting hand of the day. There is a $6 straddle. A player limps in for the 6. Another player calls the 6. I look down at 2 10s and make it 45 from the low jack. Player directly behind me puts in the cold call for the 45. It gets folded back around to the initial straddler, who's a little bit tilted, and he shoves all in. So not quite sure what he has. He has about $140 left in front of him. I'm definitely going to be calling this player. As I said, he's been a little tilted. He can be doing with this a lot of different hands. The other player folds, and now the second limper, who has a tendency to limp with very strong hands, he limped with queens a little bit earlier, decides on limp shoving himself. So he has $270 left in front of him, and now I really have to go into the tank. I'm putting the second shover on a very tight range, like pocket queens, pocket jacks, maybe some pocket kings. Who knows, he even might be doing this with pocket aces. And hands like ace king. The fact that he reshoved all in makes me think that he's really trying to price me out. So I'm leaning more towards ace king or queens or jacks. And even with that range, I don't think I'm getting a great price. So between the all in from the straddler and this player, I feel like I have about 30% equity. And doing some quick math, I figure I have exactly 30% equity in the pot if I call. So I don't think I'm gaining much or losing much by folding or calling. So it's really a flip. I do have a player behind me who has a very large stack and had cold called my 45. So he could have a hand that I might want to price out. So I either have to shove here or I have to fold. I decided on folding just because I was concerned about the player to my direct right having a very, very strong hand. And if he did, I thought I would be behind on the side pot. If the players were reversed, I definitely would have called because I think the weaker range is from the player with the least amount of money. And I think the player to my right has a very strong range. After the hand, I did some math away from the table, and I discovered that even if I assign my opponent to my right with the range that I thought he had, that I had more equity against him than I thought. I would have a little over 40% equity against his very tight range, and that was just for the side pot. I was thinking my overall equity was somewhere around 30%. It was a little bit less than that, but the side pot is where I had a little over 40% equity. So after doing some more math, it ended up being that it should have been a call mathematically, but I went with my read, I let it go. They both ended up having ace king, and neither one made a pair, of course, and my tens would have been good.
It's hard to do complex math at the table, especially when you're under pressure. That's why it's always good to work on these kind of problems when you're away from the table. But looking at it, there was a lot of dead money out there, and I think if you just shove and got the other player out of the way, you can take your chances against that one player. He probably has a stronger range than you, and he'd probably end up winning the pot. but you're getting a good price. I think you should have continued just because you have 40% equity on that side pot alone.
I don't think I was playing my best poker today and got into some spots I probably shouldn't have got myself into. I think I should have called on that last hand, and I had to go home and do some math to figure it all out. But in general, I think there was too much dead money in that pot to let it go for the price I was getting. So I decided to pack it up, head on out. I did book a small win to close out the year of 2021. So I'm looking for a very good 2022. As most of you know by now that I had some medical issues that uh, caused me to miss the whole month of January. I feel much better now. The surgeries went well, and I am recovering. So I also like to take a moment to say thank you to all those who sent their good thoughts and prayers to me, wishing me to get well soon. I really do appreciate it. It's nice knowing that there are people out there that actually care for my well-being. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate your support. If you haven't liked, subscribed, or commented, please do so. It does help out the algorithm. And the more people get to watch this, the more money I make. Hey, that sounds good. Anyway, good luck. We'll see you next time.